Yilungelo Lakho Yilungelo Lakho Yilungelo Lakho Yilungelo Lakho Yilungelo Lakho
Nginibingelele nonke babukeli emakhaya nginamukele kuzo zonke indawo phela la nidamele khona uhlelo laleli viki Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. Mbukeli siza kwena bukhoma la kumahamba phambili iSABC 1 eMzansi for sure kanti mina ke ngoAlisha inkosazane yakwaJali. Mbukeli uyazi njengenjwayelo asikuvaleli ngaphandle ekuhambeni kwesikhathi phela ngizonivulela ingciko ukuthi nani nikwazi ukubamba uqhaza phela kudaba esobe silikhuluma namhlanje. Uyazi inamba zathu zala studio ku 011 714 6918 noma usithinte ku 011 714 6919 ungasendela i-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za usithole ku Facebook Yilungelo as well as ku Twitter @Yilungelo. Now, student indebtedness has reached worrying proportions. A recent survey by Student Village shows that student debt has more than doubled in the last 3 years, now standing at a whopping 43%. Often, these students don't realize that they are equally liable for their debts, just like any other consumer, and often indebtedness can shatter their chances of getting future credit and employment. Now, student and consumer rights bodies are trying to find a solution as one of the measures, like the Credit Ombudsman Office, which is planning to embark on outreach programs to educate young people about the dangers of debt. And manje ukuthi siye phambili phela mbukeli ngodaba lethu namhlanje kwabafundi abasezikweletini asamukele phela izivakashi zethu sinaye uSis Grace Gwiji yena ophuma kwa Student Village bona ke beumkhakha obhekene namalungelo abantu abasha sibe naye noSis Leto yena ophuma kwihhovisi lomxazululi wezinkinga zabantu abanezikweletu phecelezi iCredit Ombudsman. Lovely ladies, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And siyanamukela kwilungelo lakho.
Thank you.
Well, it's going to be a ladies show, just two weeks shy of your Women's Month, so let's make this one count, ladies. If ningasichazela siqale ngayo Sis Grace, awusichazele kabanzi nge-Student Village ukuthi unenzani Student Village?
Okay, Student Village is a youth marketing company. So it started 13 years ago and it was a website. It then progressed as to bringing brands to different students, so different clients to students as promotions and activations on campuses. We then extended the company to career development. So we do career development, and in that, to look after for different companies. We look after their bursary students. We also have career development, where we bring different clients and graduate recruitment programs to students, as well as our Gradix magazine. The magazine Gradix and the website belongs to us as a company.
Okay, Sis Neo siyakwamukela nawe, please sicela usichazele nge-office le-Credit Ombud.
I-office yethu Alicia, what we basically do is that siza ama consumers umphakathi when they've got problems, maybe balistilwe a credit bureau. It could be either an unfair listing or an incorrect listing. Maskuluma nge unfair, we're talking about maybe information that is not kuti they didn't follow the proper process before backlista, because siyazi kuti before ulistiwa ngama credit providers, they have to give you 20 business days. Ukuti either you must come to some agreement or niyenze arrangement of some sorts. But tinta kanjani, maybe bazokuthumela email or they'll call you. We know that we don't like answering private numbers, so it could be that they could maybe just also send you a letter, whichever form of communication bazok tinta before that. So if they don't do that, sibisa kuti it's an unfair listing, but they didn't follow the process. So siyangena lapho. When it comes to incorrect listings, maybe somebody uvulama account with your ID, or wena uyabhadala every single month, but the information is not being updated a credit bureau. Kusho kuti siyangena lapho incorrect ke. If they've got problems nama credit providers, lana we're looking at siyazi baningi abantu that get garnished, ama garnishi orders, maybe we are batala, you don't know what's going on, you are paying too much, or you're not sure kuti kaloku ever since you've been paying, and just when you think iyaphela iganishi iyaqala futhi kuti what's going on, so we look into that. Exactly, we look into garnishi orders, if they've got problems with their account statements of accounts, or just a general credit agreement problem.
Okay, okusho ukuthi uzosiza kakhulu namhlanje sisineyo ngoba sikhuluma ngengxaki yama students azithola esengxakini yezikweletu. Asiqaleni lapho, if ningangichazela ladies, yini eyenza ama students angene ezikweletini kangaka? Siqale ngawe sis Grace.
I think the main thing is that if you can see, I'm a bank amanye and I'm a credit cards that are specifically offered to our students. So it's a matter of needing, ngifuna ukubukha ama-flights ukuhamba, ngifuna ukwenza into ethile. There's certain things ezingekho accessible ma ungenayo i-credit card. It also goes back to our students and our credit retail store accounts. And it goes to our students athanda bamahle. Wonke umuntu ose-university ufuna ukugqoka kahle, ufuna uba muhle, ufuna ubukeka. And sometimes awunayo cash on hand, kunama-function and ufuna ukuwa-attenda. So uthola ukuthi i-students zigcina sezingene ematyaleni because of such situations.
Okay, so i-peer pressure or izinto ezenzeka kule environment abahlala kuyona. Nge-experience yakho wena sisineyo yini eqhuzelela abafundi ukuthi baze bakhipha ama-account angaka bezazi ukuthi abasebenzi basafunda?
I think the big thing, Grace, it's peer pressure. We are a society that wants to live up to certain standards, and we know that at times, you know, where there are institutions, people come from small towns, Bafige, Egoli, or wherever, in whichever big town that they are, and they end up being pressurized. They need to have the latest cell phone, and I think a lot of it goes to gadgets. Wonke muntu wants to have a BlackBerry these days, and all sorts of things. So those are the kinds of things that students end up being in debt. Sometimes if we look into the history of it, when we look into the backgrounds, ekaya, you know, you find that some of these students, they actually maybe even supporting sending some of the money ekaya. So, you know, whatever was meant to come in as pocket money for them now needs to do other things. So it's a range of different reasons ukuthi why bangena esikolotweni, but I think the biggest thing is there's nothing wrong with isikweletu, but once you take too much,
Now, my biggest worry is the fact that in your survey that was published, Sis Grace, students are spending more than the average South African. An average South African spends about 39,000 rand a year. Students are spending 45,000. Where's that money coming from?
So from the survey that we had, we saw imali ningi iphume ebazalini. So 78% phuma family members, uncles, brothers, sisters. We also found that 24% came from part-time work, and that was very significant with white people. Okay. And then the other 18% came from bursaries, and that has gone up quite a bit because more bigger in we studied last year. So last year it was 11%. This year it's 18%, which is good because it's showing that companies are now investing back into our youth, and students are also finding that bursaries are more accessible and it's easier to obtain them. So that is where they're getting the income that they're
the extra
spending.
income.
Yes.
Okay, so now how serious is the problem Yama students that are actually blacklisted azoba nenkinga when they get out of school because they won't be able to acquire e-credit?
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, Uguti, the way we're patting our corner as a student, because you must remember, I think with the cases that we've dealt with, sometimes maybe our students there's some special separate list for them. But they form part of the statistics that we get, you know, from our organizations such as National Credit Regulator. They are in there. There's no special rules for the student. It's the same rule that applies. There's no special clause in the contract to say if you are a student, you know, 1, 2, 3 won't apply. So the biggest problem, Uguti, mabatolum sebenzi. And they want to access credit. Maybe now umuntu ufuna ukuthenga imoto so that it can enable them to go to work. Then they'll have a problem because already they've worked up a bad credit record. Exactly, and sometimes it's even a point, Alicia Uguti, to even enter into the job market. It's a problem because employers as part of that security check, checking Uguti, do you have a criminal record? Bayabega noguti credit profile yako injani, especially when it comes to ufunum sebenzi, maybe maybe at a financial institution, banker isn't or you'll be working with money. It's very important by check ukuthi lo muntu lo if they can't manage their own finances.
Uzosebenza kanjani la nathi?
Exactly.
Okay, asibambe lapho sisinewo okwamanje mbukela sithi ukweke itolo, but before we do that ithi ngikukhumbuze mbukela ukuthi phela nawe ungabamba iqhaza ohleleni namhlanje ngokuthi ushayele ucingo inamba ethi yase studio 011 714 6919 noma uzame ku 714 6918. You can also email us ku consumer@sabc.co.za. usithinte ku Facebook na ku Twitter. Ungathi vusi yabuya khona manje. Siphinde sinamukele futhi babukeli sikhuluma ngokungena kwabafundi ezikweletini ezinzima phela ukuzokalisa umbono wakho noma usibuza umbuzo sithinte la kuma ku 011 714 6918 noma ku 714 6919. Ungasithumela ne-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za noma usithumele inamba ku Facebook noma ku Twitter. Okay, we've got a caller online. Siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho? Siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho? Okay, I think we've lost the caller. Asiqhubekeni phambili. Sis Grace, we hear a lot about ukuthi abantu ama-students spend izinto differently according to race, gender and age. Awusichazele kabanzi ukuthi nithole ini nge-study senu?
Okay, well, into sitholile ukuthi amantombazana are spending more money than abafana. And it's interesting ukubona ukuthi yini amantombazana spend more money than abafana, and sithola ukuthi contraceptives, so the pill and condoms are what they're spending more money than males, which is empowering. It's showing that women are taking control.
Responsible at least.
And music as well, they're spending more money on than males. And it'll be interesting kakhulu sithola ukuthi abafana baspendi imali eningi on washing than the girls.
And
then if we go into ethnicity, we found that colored students are spending more on smoking, bling, clothing and footwear. And we find that black students are spending more on takeaways, on toiletries, looking good, the weaves and all of that.
Oh, my weaves, yeah.
Gadgets and music as well.
Okay.
And white students are spending more on traveling, on food and groceries, and utshwala.
Okusho kahle ukuthi mesibuka that ratio imbalance because ama students amnyama, they're spending more on izinto just to look good. Sisneo, do you want to add on to that? I mean, you deal with these cases every day.
Exactly. We deal with the cases, Alicia, and the problem is what we found at the end of the day is that people don't realize what they are doing now is going to affect the future yabo. As you are saying, I mentioned before that we come into big cities and want to adjust and adapt to that.
Everyone.
Exactly, and very exactly the study is showing things like that. So it's an issue of at times, even when we look at it from an education point of view, from an early age, how you raise your children, that is almost the pattern that they will pick up from the parent. They'll have the same pattern on spending, especially when it comes to credit as well. So that is something that we've noticed that from an early age, children, they tend to already fit into particular patterns and they replicate what they see abazali babo bayenzayo.
Okay, all right. Now, does the media have any influence? I know ukuthi sikhuluma ngokuthi nje just eskoleni peer pressure, but does the media in fact play a role in ukuthi abantwana baye into so much debt?
I think it does quite a bit. And into sitholile ukuthi masibuza aba students kuma focus groups wethu masenze study ukuthi they feel like it's not the traditional advertising. So ukubona advert ku TV ukuthi kudayiswa jean or kudayiswa in is not into ekhuluma nabo. It's ukubona a celebrity egqoke itekile Nike, ukubona a celebrity ephethe a certain alcohol, drinking certain things. So celebrity endorsement, product placement, izona izinto ezikhuluma nabo ezenza eziba-affectayo ukuthi bagcine sebethenga izinto abamhlamba abangakwazi ukuzi-afforda bagcine sebengene ematyaleni because of such things.
Okay, ngizothatha uSibusiso. Sibusiso, siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho.
Yebo, njani sisi?
Siyaphila bhuti wami, sicela sibuze umbuzo nombeka umbono.
Okay, bengifuna ukubuza ukuthi like ngi-student bengisebenza last year and then I had my credit card buying clothes and everything. Then I resigned from umsebenzi ngifuna ukuyela esikoleni, so I'm studying right now. So I can't pay my credit card. Some I had letters with but I'm blacklisted or something. So I don't know how can I clear that thing and how can I get to an agreement with those people because I can't reach them and I'm people they don't have any idea about these things.
Bamba kanjalo Sibusiso nangu sisine wakhulume nawe la.
Yeah, Uspusita, are you saying that you can't reach ama credit providers wakho?
Yes, I can't reach them, and mind you, I'm not working, so I would appreciate writing the installment as one.
Okay.
Okay, siyabonga Sibusiso, sicela ulalele kumabonakude wakho.
Okay, nyabonga.
Okay,
Yeah, Uspusisa, I think it's a little bit odd ukuthi what he can't get in touch with ama credit providers. What he can do then maybe is to go ku letolo where he's got the credit. Ababuze ukuthi where can he get in touch with e-credit department of that particular credit provider. Then that is where then at least he'll be able to get the numbers, because if ufuna ukwenza arrangement, it's a responsible thing that he's trying to do. At least I ask for the credit department's contact numbers or ukuthi where are they located, and he needs to go to them, explain and start making arrangements with the credit department people, not abantu that's in the store, because they won't be able to assist him with that regard. He must just ask, or if avula incwadi zakhe the accounts, uzobona a lot of the time on top there is ukubonisa ukuthi this is the number for e-credit department, so he just needs to check those and get in touch with them as soon as possible.
All right, now I understand ukuthi a lot of young students, if you're going to apply for e-credit, udinga i-consent yomzali. How is it that then ama students are falling into debt, meaning ukuthi ama parents have parents signed off on them ukuthi bahambe bawuqala debt? Because I think that's the big thing. Thiwa abazali, they're actually not informed. Ithini sisi research here in Student Village?
So into siyenzile siye kwitolo eziningi sababuza ukuthi benza njani ukuthi bavumele ingane zibe nama students to have ama accounts. So ukuthi bathi you need a parent's consent, and in that it means you give your parents details by phone abazali bakho bavuma ukuthi yebo you can open the account or you can't. And sithola ukuthi students eziningi zibhalisa umngane, zibhalisa usisi, zingabhalisa umzali. Thola ukuthi that's how ingane izithola seyikweletini and abazali abazi.
Okay, so that's how the parents can be misinformed.
Yes.
Okay, but what can parents do then, Sisneo, if ezothola phone call nje out of the blue sekuthiwa nangu umzali kabani? Because I think that's all they're going to ask, not necessarily ama details ukuthi ezazosayina abazombuza ukuthi do you know this person thiwe yebo, and that is taken as a consent.
Yeah, Alicia, the process basically ukhumule ukuthi umthetho ukhona, and what umthetho requires is that before uvuli account or uthole credit, they need to do a proper affordability assessment.
Okay.
So assessment yenza kanjani, bayacheka ukuthi lo muntu lo how much is coming in, income how much is that, and expenditure kuti imalini. So when you get those calls as a parent, kuti we've seen with students what they do, bazofuna umzali babuze kuti do you give this child imali, because siyazibuza now where do they get the income from? That is where the source of income ukuthi do you give them an allowance, yes or no? So parents must know sometimes ukuthi when they get those calls kusho ukuthi ingane is trying to open an account somewhere.
Ibambe kanjalo Sisneo, ngithatha Vunda from Johannesburg. Sakamukele kwilungelo lakho.
Yebo.
Sicela uqhubeka ngombuzo bhuti nombeka umbono. Vunda siyakwamukela. Okay, I think we've lost Vunda. Ngicela uqhubeke Sisneo.
So that is what we need to be aware of as parents, and I think it goes back to education as well. Alicia, ukuthi fundisa ingane yakho ukuthi these are the consequences of getting into debt at an early age.
Bafunda nasekhaya ukuthi imali yongiwa kanjani.
Yes, so you need to educate them ukuthi you know what, this is what we can afford, don't go beyond that. And sometimes into ezibonayo is that some of the cases we've had babona ukuthi that part-time jobs. Umuntu uzothatha i-part-time job agijime abule account, and the problem is part-time job is just but part-time. Sometimes shift change shifts, you get less shifts and so on. So income nayo is going down. They need to consider such issues before bavula account.
Okay, all right. So kwamanje mbukele asibuyele itolo. Please join us shortly after this. Sinamukele futhi babukeli, usabheke uhlelo Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. Sisakaza kuwena bukhoma la kumahamba phambili SABC 1 eMzansi for sure. We are discussing the worrying problems of student debt. Ukuthi phela bas understandise le ndaba. My studio guests are Usis Grace Gwiji from Student Village. Sibe nawo Usisneo Lakho from the office, from the Credit Ombudsman office. Ladies, I have a caller Delisile from KZN. Delisile, siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho.
Hello.
Hi sisi, sicela usibuze umbuzo noma ubeke umbono. Sistelisile? Yebo.
Yebo ngikhona.
Okay, sisi sicela uqhubeke nombuzo.
Ya inkinga yami ke mina ngilana batawethu.
Qhubeka sisi.
Inkinga yokufana ohamba abantwana njengoba bethatha bethatha izimali ingubo everything evule ezitolo. Inkinga ukuthi abayithola amabhasari.
Asizo ma, qhubeka.
Abayathola abantwana abanababhasari manje bakwazi ukuthi bayovulela ama-account ngama-R200 abanawo.
Yebo ma, umbuzo wakho?
Ngithi manje lento ingasizakala kanjani ngoba manje kunenkinga phela makunjalo. Bacela sebengenele ngempela esigonethini sekuhlukumezeka thina abazali.
Okay ma, siyabonga kakhulu ulalele ngimabona kude wakho ma, izivakashi zethu zizosiza ukuxazulula lolo daba ma. Okay, ladies, I think let's take, there's a Facebook message here. They need to educate us about what bad debt does to a person. Abantu abaningi bathi they're not informed ukuthi what they are getting into in the first place. Yini eyenziwa ukuthi ku-educate lama students, because ngempela they do think ukuthi ba exempt from the actual list yama consumers.
I think into yenziwe especially by the credit providers ukuthi they must use terminology as I understand our students in terms of every agreement that they have. Students need to be clear. And one of the things that we've done as a student village, website here to www.studentvillage.co.za, is we're putting up articles every day. Our students can access that. How can I help myself get out of debt? How can I manage my debt? What are the consequences of being in debt? So I think it's something that a lot of different companies and credit providers can easily do, and they should be doing that to help the students understand and get out of the problems they're in.
Okay, sis, now njenge credit ombud, I know ukuthi ubukhulumile ngokuthi sentarget campus radio usichazele ngabanzi uthi.
Yeah, because Alicia, education is there, it's a lot, it's part of what we do, but as you're saying, there's more that we need to do, and one of the things esifuna ukuyenza ukuthi sibeke ukuthi how do we target a student? You know, it's as she was saying, speak their language. But I think a lot of campuses, Banama Radio, maybe there'll be an opportunity to ama exhibition na posi and educate them. This is what happens with debt, and it's getting into those partnerships with ama institution. Invite us, Masize, we are available. We must go there and do the education. So it's definitely something that we are able to do, that we are looking into doing, and maybe just we must put more energy into that.
Okay, I'll take Anonymous from Gauteng. Anonymous, siyamukela kwilungelo lakho.
Hello, sisi njani?
Siyaphela bhuti wami, sicela usibuze umbuzo.
Ngiyaphela. Siswambheka manje ngi-student nasevezi ne?
Yeah.
It goes and goes ukuthi ngifunda ngisebenza and I end up ngiba ematshaleni too much. Then from there, ithi mangiphuma emsebenzi, mangiphuma esikoleni, I was owing a lot of money, yabo. Then I end up ngiba under administration so that ndikhona ukuthi at least ngibhadale imalinyana encinci. But now my problem when I'm going to admin and asking them ukuthi when I'm finishing paying, why am I admin passing in Ugubu? Angazi exact date, whereas they have it documentation Ugubu when are you going to get out there? That's my question.
Okay, so usese kuyi blacklist but uzamela ukuyikhokha ikweletu.
Which is blacklisted, then it goes to admin. I end up admin because of I was paying a lot of money. So now my question is, why was admin sibuza ukuthi when and how uzoqhibanini ukubhadala lento bangana exact date but banama document apho kubo.
Okay, siyabonga but Anonymous, sicela ulalele lapho kumabona kude wakho. Okay, sis, now I think you can answer him.
Ubuti indaba yake, he went under administration. If ngingachaza quickly ukuthi administration isebenza kanjani. Kusho ukuthi now you've gone to an administrator and said, I don't know, I can't cope with ama payments wam. So they go by ama arrangements nama credit provider wakho ukuthi ba yehlise installment that you are paying. Now the result here is that administration kusho ukuthi ukhumula ukuthi mawuse equality, the interest is running. Okay, it keeps on running, and administration, even though ukhokha every single month, ama administrator wakhe they hand over the money to ama credit providers 4 times in a year, kusho once every quarter.
Okay.
So that is why in the ukuthi bathi usakhokha imali eningi but equally to kusho ukuthi the interest it's running on interest. Uyazi kunama fees nakhona that are running in there that they take, kusho ama legal fees, admin fees and all sorts of fees before babhatala isikweleti sakhe. So what he needs to do is that he can go to those administrators and ask for e-statements sakhe. Okay, instead of asking them kuthi uqeda nini, acele i-statement sakhe, or go to ama credit providers wakhe acele ukuthi ucela kubona i-statement, and lapho ke uzobona ukuthi how far is he from being finished. But indaba yakhe it's that it's interest, compound interest that's running, and all those charges baskhipayo before they hand over the money to the credit providers is what making it to go isikhathi eside. So
okay, so unceda ngalithola kuphi siswami?
Uncedo, look, he can maybe call e-office here too, so that we can look into it. Although e-administration is not under our jurisdiction, but at least maybe singam advisor how can he get a hold of his statement yakhe.
Okay, ungamnikeza inamba sis?
Yeah, ama numbers wethu 0861 662837 so that asithintana nathi sikhulume kahle ngendaba yakhe.
Okay, now another thing I wanted to ukuthi ngichaze kahle. Okay, let me take uNikiwe before siya phambili ngingxoxo yethu. Nikiwe kwaZulu Natal, siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho. Sisinikiwe, siyakwamukela. Okay, we've lost uNikiwe. I wanted to find out ukuba ne account as a student, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Ngicela nisichazele ukuthi iba wrong kuphi and where is it good? If ungaqala ngawe sis Grace.
Ngiyacabanga ukuthi no student, it's a perfect place ukuthi uqalise ukhule, uthatha ama responsibilities, ukwazi ukubona ukuthi mangineyikoloto ngikhokha kanje, the consequences zongakhokhi kukanje nakanje. Manje inkinga yifike ukuthi ama students ayas overcommit, they go beyond their means. So I know I'm getting a certain amount of pocket money, but I'm going to have 5 accounts that are even more than the amount of money that I'm getting. So in terms of actually students being allowed to have credit, it's not a bad thing, but it's you have to be responsible about it.
It can be used as a savings account as well. Kulabo aba responsible.
Yeah, ukungena lapho if we're looking at it
okay,
from
uzochaza mesibuya kwi break sisine okwamanje mbukeli asithi shwi eyitolo siyabona khona manje ungayindawo. Welcome back. Kusabheke uhlelo Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. Mbukeli, we broadcasting live la kumahamba phambili SABC 1 eMzansi for sure. Ubambe iqhaza mbukeli kudaba esilidinga idawo namhlanje sithinte ku 011-714-6918 noma 714-6919. Ungasithumela ne-email ku consumer@sabc.co.za noma usithinte ku Facebook noma ku Twitter. Asithathe uZema from Cape Town. Zema, siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho.
Hello sis. Mina bengicela ukusho ukuthi even ama banks ajwayele ukufika like on campus and then benza ama students avula ama account like normal savings account, but then they tell them they get free 500 rand, they get free this, they get free, and then they don't explain that the students have to pay that back. And then our students end up receiving a phone call telling them they're not paying because they had a credit card that was given by a certain bank. So I think consultants from these banks need to explain clearly, because they're clearly not explaining the full process involved in them giving them these free 500 rand vouchers and 100 rand and 50 petrol cards and stuff.
Siyabonga kakhulu sizema ngombono wakho. Well, she's basically reiterating that many students are not educated. So Sisneo, we were still explaining.
Yes, just to answer her quickly, Alicia, the other thing, as she's saying, it's going to be, we'll give you 500 rands to spend in. Students need to read the terms and conditions, because ugutu utolelo 500 a lot of the time, but you get 500 once you've spent so much. Gune
fine print
they need to read and stop getting overly excited ngendaba ukuthi utholi account. Take that agreement home, or whatever offer they're giving you, ask for it in writing, because you much more sober-minded. Maubala something you are able to see what is actually going on. And then the positives is that mavula account as a student. The positive part is that ustata I footprint yako ye credit. Okay, skumele ukuthi leyo information izo ya a credit bureau, most particularly ukhokha kahle izo ya a credit bureau, and you'll be establishing a good credit record kulendao. So it's not a bad thing after all, because at the end of the day ukhumule ukuthi so that you are able to uvuli account, maybe utengi moto or something like that, you need to show a track record kuti. Indeed, I can pay my accounts, and that is what you can use student credit for. Ukuti establish a good name for yourself at the credit bureaus, because you'll have that positive information lapoke. And as far as banking accounts, it's good for students to learn to save. Use it maybe ukuti usave, high ukuti uspend all the time. So those are the positives that can actually come from acquiring e-credit as a student.
Now, I just want to add on what she said. Now, these banks are coming on campus and offering all these things but not giving them education. Is it ethical for them to actually go there? Because yes, we understand they're sticking with the National Credit Act, but is it really ethical for them to target such a vulnerable group of individuals?
You must remember, when you look at it from a business point of view, Alicia, kushoguti those institutions but try ukuthi basitholela ama customer. So already they would have established a relationship with you ukuthi from student days, but Nikki maybe a savings account, a credit account, and they introduce a brand yabo kuyo. So there's nothing wrong with that in terms of that.
So they're well within their legal limits.
Yes, because the thing is abak forced. Could we tat? If they start forcing you, then it becomes a problem. But if bias marketella and now we are vuma kuti manglalele, and in the end we are decided kuti this is a product engi funayo. It's there's nothing wrong with that. I think the problem comes in maybe where and I think as consumers, meles buze ama questions because as buzi so that she understand. Now uzobona kuti bati no, you know,
now
free
500
this, free that,
rand.
now 500 tuzotola say our buzi kahle kuti exactly what does it entail? What am I responsible for? Isn't it njalo? So at times maybe as a form of education to ourselves, my student balapo e campusing, ask the difficult questions. Don't be afraid to ask them questions, because that's where you will get uguti, this is not for me, or this won't work for me.
Okay. Asithathule hloko Nolo from ePolokwane. Siyakwamukela sisi kwilungelo lakho.
Ninjani?
Siyaphila sisi wami, sicela usibuze umbuzo noma ubeke umbono.
Hayi mina ngengaya ku administration bathi siyaya. The thing is babhadale, it's like ngibabhadale mina amount of 2.6 for equalitism for 3 months, and after 3 months they were telling me like bona abasakwazi ukuqhubeka, rather I find another administration. And then the thing is they managed to stop all the debits from the banks and all that, and I thought maybe it was bathi kusho ukuthi beyaziwa ukuya ngani ngoba ama-bank avumile.
Okay.
So yang mangazi ukuthi angeke basaqhubeka kanjani mangizothola mina ebhenki azange babhadale not even isikweleti.
Okay. All right sis. Okay sis. Siyabonga kakhulu. Sicela ulalele impendulo kumabona kude wakho. Sis.
Yeah, the best thing for Ulihlohonolo is that maybe for her to approach any administrator so that they can try and get e-file from those ones bahambileyo, because then she'll be able to see.
Will they be able to get e-history with the other administrators?
They should be able to, and here's the thing, just kulmile with the other caller uguti, sometimes if you see uguti you're not coming right, hamba, go to your credit providers and explain to them kuti I was under admin, here's my problem, I don't know kuti imali, have you been getting it? They will be able to uti bapule e-statement. Babone kuti, did the money come in, did it not come in? But the best thing for her is that go to, at least they were honest, bamchela kuti they can't back to back. But maybe actually e-file yake kubo, or get another administrator to get that file and take it from there.
Okay, so Grace, reckless lending by Omashonisa. Have you ever dealt with Oma issues anjalo, especially with Lama students and Sebenzangao?
To date, no, and the information it's like our surveys and such, it hasn't come up. But just to say, Lapo, it's each individual's responsibility to make sure that whatever you're getting yourself into, are you able to get out? And njengoba shows is now, it's important to yonke into oyivumayo uyifunde, we understand. Umungazi, rather ask. So in terms of that, we don't have that much information in terms of that, but my advice would be read, find out.
Read and find out. Okay. Sinayo Uneli from Erudaport. Siyakwamukela sisi kwilungelo lakho.
Hello.
Yebo sisi, sicela usibuze umbuzo noma ubeke umbono.
Okay, hello?
Ima sisicela office mabona kude wakho. Hello. Okay, we seem to have lost a caller. Now, do you want to add on to that, like especially with the reckless loans, in fact, unsecured loans from reckless lenders?
Look, we found that obviously unsecured, it's easier to get into. Your secured form, we're looking at, maybe a bond mortgage or equal to for a car where there's an asset that they will be able to take should you not be able to pay. What happens with Amalon Amangani is that you need to be able to think at the end of the day, because we need to do that assessment, affordability assessment. And what I've seen a lot of the time as consumers, into is that you underplay ama expenses wako, so that it looks like there is room for movement for you to get equality. So at the end of the day, the problem with that is that you will be stuck with making payments. You do the groceries and this is how much you spend. So I think the advice there is that always be honest. I mean, National Credit Act ingenile with this affordability assessment trying, because previously that never used to happen.
Yeah,
exactly. Totally excess, baby, 2 million kata, the next thing you've got. So manje, what they've brought in is uguti, we ask you expenses, income, to try and protect us, the consumer, at the end of the day. So mele be honest, because if you're not honest, you will be coming, the creditors will be knocking on your door at the end of the day, and so you will be in the problem. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So manje, let's take a short break. Mbukeli siyabuya emva kwalokho. Sinamukele futhi babukeli to our last segment of today's show. Remember now ungabamba iqhaza phela namhlanje ngokuthi usithinte la ku 0117146918 noma 7146919. Email address yethu consumer@sabc.co.za. Ungasithinta ku Facebook Yilungelo noma usilandele ku Twitter @Yilungelo. Babudlamini eTsakane siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho.
Yebo sawubona ma.
Yebo baba, sicela usibuze umbuzo noma ubeke umbono.
Yebo ngicela ukubuza nje, ngizamele umntanami ukuthi athole isikole FET college. Bangitshela ukuthi imali yabo yonke is 11,100. Manje okungishayayo noma ngabe kwenjani ngibhazala ngazi noma engakhona ukuthi imbhadale nama transport, because ngikhona ipension anginayo imali yokubhadala ama transport usaye lapha esikolweni.
Awu usicela usiphendele umbuzo futhi baba.
Ngithi ngiye ku FET college ngayobuza ukuthi beyimalini imali yabo yonke for ukumfundisa N1 N2 N3.
Yep.
But kimi is 11,100.
Yebo baba. Yebo baba.
Okay. Izawulo manje nginamali yokumtransport uya lapho eLukuzaneni esikolweni.
Oh, okay baba, sicela ulalele ngimabona kude wakho. I don't think it's quite related, but angathola kuphi uncedo malana nama student bursaries. In fact nangumuntu odila nama bursaries ama students Grace.
He can go online to www.gradex.net. Lapho we have many different companies that are registered.
GradeX spellwa kanjani le? Wayisheshisa kangaka sis Grace?
It's GRADX.net. Where he can find out which different companies are actually offering bursaries for different institutions.
Akakhona ukufanele nine office, because uyasho ukuthi useyile ma FET colleges udinga uncedo ngoba uthi ubaba kanayo imali, and I think wena sis Grace ungamsiza. So ngicela inumber yase office.
It's 011 885 3918.
18. Okay, this is the last segment, ladies. Now, how can we change consumer behavior yama students? Those are students abantu abasafara kakhulu. Sishintsha kanjani behavior yabo towards imali?
I think Masibuka, it starts from childhood. As parents, maybe we need to step up lapho and start educating our children ukuthi imali isebenziwa kanjani, and what are the different aspects. And the next part is education. It always goes back to education, Alicia ukuthi. How do we start? Maybe ukuthi from a school point of view, do we start, targeting ama matriculant esikoleni ukuthi, you'll be entering into varsity level, and these are the pressures. This is what can happen because ukumele ukuthi, in order for a student kuti bathola ama account, all they need is a proof of registration or kanye student card. So we need to educate them maybe ukuthi what is the power that lies behind student card proof of registration. They need to act responsibly. So that is, I think, one of the best things ukuthi, even maybe a tertiary institution, as part of when they do this but in introduction to varsity life and things like that.
Okay.
So
that they prepared. Yes. These are the things that they're going to come across. Yeah. Okay, we've got Asman from Johannesburg. Yilungelo Lakho.
Hello, Sanbana.
Sawubona sisi, sicela sibuze umbuzo nombeka umbono.
Okay, I just want to find out. I'm a student at Wits and I went to a reputable store to get credit, and I only get an allowance of 900 Rand, and that credit was granted to me. So what is the regulation processes which are there to ensure that us as students are not implicated when these companies are trying to get credit from us and we do not qualify? Thank you.
Okay, Sister Siyabonga, please listen on your television. Sister, that is directly your question.
Yeah, it goes back to affordability assessment, Alicia Uguti. They would have checked Uchilo na ikuti utala in 900. So that would have been income yake, and they would have then asked Uguti ama expenses wako. So every credit provider mele bayenze affordability assessment. If they don't, if in her case they didn't do that, then you know that can amount to reckless lending because they didn't do.
Is that illegal though, sis Uguti abazange bamcheki affordability?
Yeah, it's illegal according to Mteto, according to the Act. Mele uyenze affordability assessment before you extend any kind of credit, so that it can happen. Uguti sibona ukuthi lo muntu out of 900 ayitholayo. This is the rent money, this is the food money, this is how much is left. So kusho kuti, this is how much we can extend the credit so that she's not in too much debt. Okay. So that is what needs to happen. Umthetho wathi affordability assessment, it needs to happen.
Okay, and how would you advise Inangu sisebemnikeze credit ya 900 Rand and then she can't afford it, but abazange benzi ilokhuzana that affordability assessment in the first place? Usebuzo ukhala kunina because imali yebhasari yonke isiya kwisikweletu.
I think it's important for each student to be responsible. You need to be realistic to yourself as an individual. Umuyibona ukuthi 900 is more than enough for you. Don't increase your limits any further. And be realistic. When you purchase, don't max each card that you have. Keep it within what you feel you can afford. That's the advice I'd give the students.
And Alicia, that's a problem that they can actually contact your office here too with.
Okay, so the letter leo complaint egunin. Okay, asikhulumeni ngama way forward. What measures can students do then so that banga okay asithatha utholakele kuqala before siyaphambili. Tholakele siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho. Tholakele siyakwamukela kwilungelo lakho.
Yebo sisinjani?
Siyaphila sisi wami, sicela sibuze umbuzo nombeka umbono.
Ngiyaphila.
Qhubeka sisi.
Okay, sisi mina nginenkinga la. Ngavula i-account wa-Edgazi, athatha impahla, so besasebenza ngaleso sikhathi, ngisasebenzi ngifunda e-Unisa.
Yebo sisi.
Njengamanje bathi bazongifaka kulokhuzana kuma-areas. So inkinga yami ke ngoba ngasasebenza ngizama no-applya i-NSFAS, nginenkinga ngothola nginaso imali yokuregister this semester.
Okay.
So ne-stress yesinkinga yami.
Okay, sisitholakele sicela ulalele lapho kumabona kude wakho umpendula ne?
Yeah, Usisi, what she can look at, ushile kuti besebenza before. Sometimes masthatama account, Alicia, there's e-insurance, credit insurance that we take. Maybe I check ukuthi, was she not paying for e-credit insurance? Abone kuti, can they not maybe assist? Because sometimes mautati credit insurance bazotike will pay for a certain period, or valley equal to yako, they pay it off.
Okay.
So she just needs to check maybe in terms of that. And lenda bale kuti bazomfaga ama areas, it's very important for her ukuthi, even though she's not working, she needs to go and talk to ama credit providers wake, because if ngimzwile kahle bekhuluma ukuthi ufuna i-bursary and so on, I think being listed as well, that can definitely close doors for you. So she needs to handle that matter very quickly.
Yes, and I was saying, Mrs. Grace, what are the disadvantages at bad credit if we can just drive that point home before sihambe, so that abantu bangangena ey'kweletini ezizobaxaka bese beyakhala in the near future?
I think the most important thing is, as a student, you're at the emerging point of your life, and having a bad record or being blacklisted can stop you from having mortgage bonds, car loans, getting a job at some companies. So it's very important for you to take it seriously, not think that I'm a student, I'll be treated differently. Kubalulekile ukuthi understand the consequences before uzifake ematyaleni.
Okay, and this now is it true ukuthi bangakuvala abantu if your future employer if you are blacklisted indeed?
Yeah, definitely. I think many people have experienced that ukuthi I've got the qualifications, you go into an interview and you are
I actually read a case study ye credit ombudsman ukuthi lo sisi ubesesikoleni efunda and then when she graduated she was a newly graduated student but she couldn't get because she was blacklisted.
Well, with her, the case was she couldn't get access to credit because blacklisted, and she was at a point where, luckily for her, she managed to get that job.
Okay.
But now, in order for her to access credit, and she needed it badly, she couldn't get into it. Couldn't get access to it because they were listed.
Which institutions are those that you can be barred from if you apply umsebenzi and you're blacklisted?
Look, I think if we look at it, a lot of institutions were, being ethical and methodical. As I said, according to the law, if you're going to work with money or at any financial institution, they do have a right to check credit record. Yes. I mean, it's directly linked. You'll be working with money, you'll be working in a financial institution. But I mean, even normal jobs, any other job,
they have the right to check.
I know they check
before you run away. Abantu bebethi ngikubuze lo mbuzo i-credit amnesty, the proposed credit amnesty bill izokhona yini ukuthi size a lot of students that are indebted? How
look,
is it
Alicia,
help them?
I think that one we need to look and see. At the moment, it's at Parliament. We will need to be able to see ukuthi what are the actual terms, what are the actual, what are they saying ukuthi sizo fagi amnesty to who and what, and then we'll be able to assess that.
Okay, but obviously bazosizeka because wonke umuntu falls under that umbrella ukuthi uyi-consumer and you blacklisted. So if it eventually does go through, ama students amaningi can look forward to some sort of alleviation
depending on the terms.
Depending on the terms.
We're not sure ukuthi bati what will be the terms for you to be able to
apply. Yes. Thank you so much, ladies. Unfortunately, sasiphelelwe isikhathi mbukeli. So uyazi ke mbukeli ngithanda ukubonga izivakashi zami la e-studio uSisneo noSisGrace ngokusipha isikhathi sazo kanti nolwazi lalo. Sibonge futhi nani babukeli ngokuthi libe nathi kuze kube khona manje. Please join us again next week for another consumer topic of the week. Ukuze uthole i-repeat Yilungelo Lakho mbukeli bheka i-SABC 1 Mzansi for show every Monday morning ngo 9:30 kuya ku 10:30. For myself, Alicia Ntombi Akajali and the whole entire team, it's goodbye. Nive nempela sonto emnandi.
Yilungelo Lakho